Okay, with that, we will move to item 5.1, our update on the activities of the Foundation for California Community Colleges.
Good afternoon, and I want to welcome two guests that I brought today. As you know, the campaign for the endowment ended officially on June 30th, and the report that you were provided a couple of weeks ago is now updated with the final numbers. And there was a bit of a flurry of activity, as you might expect, in the last 10 or 12 days of the campaign. So in that final number now, we have a total endowment raised of $67,394,737. And that is across the board from all of the colleges now having been tabulated. And as you can see by the report that is now being distributed, we have a wide variety of participation levels depending on the school or the district across the state. So what I wanted to do today, as we report on this final number that was raised of nearly $68 million, is present to you a couple of the College Foundation executive directors who were successful in this campaign, number one, but also, number two, come from very disparate places. And in doing so, I want to introduce the fact that, as we've talked about at previous meetings, many of you have asked why certain colleges are participating, why other colleges aren't able to succeed, or why a college that we might expect would have great numbers might not, and vice versa. How on earth could Columbia College be at 205% of goal out in the middle of nowhere? And
Paul,
yes.
could I interrupt you for just a
Sure.
second? Could you, of the 67 million, how much was raised by the foundation?
Actually raised by the entire state across the board, $28,263,158.
Okay.
That's the number in bold at the bottom of the center column on the back side of that sheet. And then you'll see the initial gift from the Osher Foundation of $25 million that set us off originally. And then the additional matching dollars now that will be triggered this summer of $14.1 million in addition lead us to that final 67.4.
Great, thank you.
Certainly. So with me today on the far left is Becky Michael, who is the Executive Director of the Columbia College Foundation. And to my immediate left, you met earlier Mike Stepanovich, the Executive Director from the Bakersfield College Foundation. And Columbia College is a very small college, as you all know, with an enrollment of about 3,500 or so students. And their initial goal was 94,000 and change. And Becky was met with both shock and awe when she publicized that goal to her constituents and was told, quite frankly, there's no way we could ever do this. This is multiple times what we raise on an annual basis. And she sits here today with having raised double that. So first off, I want to introduce Becky and have her talk to you a little bit about her experiences at Columbia and what this gift meant and how it's changed the face of philanthropy at her college.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. Good afternoon. We raised a total of about 194,000, which was 205% of our goal, as Paul said. And these numbers, they sound a little bit small, but we are a small but mighty college. And before OSHA, we offered only fewer than 10 scholarships that were $1,000 or more at our college. So we now have an additional 19 from the OSHA campaign. So this really does have a huge impact on our college. And the OSHA campaign in general, really, the timing was great for us, and it really reinvigorated our board. They got very involved, and we were very fortunate to strengthen our partnership with our local community foundation. They brought several new donors to us who had never considered the college before, and it gave us a great opportunity to talk to them about the college and its role in our community. We also met with several prominent business leaders who, again, had never donated presented, and we were able to explain to them the impact that our college has on the economy. And we secured a $54,000 donation from one business alone, which supported 4 scholarships. But again, for us, that $54,000 was more than we earned the previous year total before OSHA came along. So it was a big deal, and it really helped to raise the visibility of our foundation in the community. We had a lot of press coverage. We did a 30-minute radio interview that was aired on 3 different stations, and we had several newspaper articles. And we feel as though the opportunity to partner with the Community Foundation and several new donors and business owners is going to have a long-lasting impact. In addition to the scholarships, which obviously will be offered on an annual basis, we've now created these strong partnerships that I think will keep us going, and we'd like to keep the momentum rolling, even though OSHA is now done. We're going to keep going, and it's been an amazing opportunity. And of course, we're so appreciative to Mr. OSHA for his amazing donation, but also to the Foundation for California Community Colleges, who have been there to support us every step of the way. We really couldn't have done it without them. So thank you.
And then also joining us today, as I mentioned, is Mike Stepanovich from Bakersfield, and you can see their goal was slightly higher at $567,000, and they met that goal, and as you learned today, have exceeded every other goal they might have imagined with some recent philanthropic activity. So with that, Mike.
Thank you. I do want to say also I'm always delighted to come to Sacramento because I'm an alumnus of Sacramento State, so it's always good to come back and visit Sacramento. I have many fond memories here. I'm bringing you the viewpoint from about 275 miles away in the southern San Joaquin Valley, and to let you know that that view of the Osher scholarships were incredibly important. They were so important that when the opportunity came up, we at that point had a bequest, and so we were able to quickly make our match. We were the second college in the system to make the match. The reason I made it so quickly is because scholarships are so essential in our area. As board member Gary Reed can attest, in the San Joaquin Valley, we have a very poor college-going rate. In our region, it's not so much about accessibility as it is affordability, and you may raise your eyebrows at that, but the San Joaquin Valley's unemployment rate is notoriously high. In some places, it's third world levels, 30 and 40%. And money, scholarship, any scholarship money is incredibly important. In Bakersfield, by doing this and being so quick to make our match, we were able to create 56 new scholarships at Bakersfield College. I've checked with our financial aid department. So far, we've had 55 recipients. Some of those are renewals, and so it's been a godsend for us. I had the opportunity to visit with board member Henry Ramos at breakfast this morning, and I came away with a sense that many of you have a sort of a disappointment that the overall goal was not met. And I'd like to ask you to flip the glasses around and look at it from the other end. 3 years ago, we had 0. Today, we have a $70 million endowment. That is going to change lives throughout this state, from Siskiyou County to San Diego County and every point in between. It's incredibly important. Paul Lanning worked tirelessly for the last 3 years to do this. I know I've spoken to him. He came to Bakersfield to help us with whenever I asked for Paul to do this. He tried to do this in a time in the worst economic downturn in 80 years since the '29 stock market crash. And to get a $70 million endowment is nothing short of a minor miracle. So this is a remarkable achievement. What does this mean at the student level? Well, I attend our honors reception, as I mentioned to you this morning, and there I happen to be the local face of the Osher scholarships. Our students who receive the Osher scholarships, they're looking for somebody to thank. They want to thank somebody. And the look in their eyes says far more than their words. You can tell how important this is. And I'd like to share another story with you about how essential any scholarship money, and especially the Osher scholarships, are. That You know, a couple of years ago, I had a young woman come into my office, and she was desperate. She was weeping. Her father, she was 18 years old. Her father had just lost his job as a result of the recession. Her mother was working 2 part-time jobs. This girl was working 3 part-time jobs trying to help the family out. She had 2 younger siblings. The $500-some-odd fees that she owed for 15 units might as well have been $1 million for, you know, the insurmountability of it. I said, we'll help you. Let's see if we can't find you a scholarship. We did. It wasn't an Osher scholarship, but the point is that these stories are legion out there. I'm sure Becky has them at Columbia College. I'm sure at Sacramento City College, at Shasta College. Pick a college in the state, and these stories are out there of people who desperately need scholarship money. The fact that you have created, and Paul has helped create, a $70 million endowment is exceptionally, and you should all be exceptionally proud of this. And you have changed, and that the Osher gift has changed, and the efforts of all of you have changed hundreds of lives, thousands of lives, and will continue to do so, you know, in perpetuity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike and Becky both. And so in total, looking at our results, we have 32 colleges that met or exceeded their goals in this campaign. And that's keeping in mind that 3 years ago, as Mike referenced, we did not have a campaign. We had never raised funds for scholarships as a statewide entity. And in fact, we did not even have working agreements with the 112 colleges, which took us the first 12 months of this campaign to get to. And so that was, I think, one of the building blocks that will last well beyond this campaign, and that is the tighter relationships we have now with all of the college foundations throughout the state, and the ability now to truly represent a system that is starting finally to move toward philanthropic support in fits and starts, but it's through gifts like this one, the Osher gift. It's through gifts like the one that was announced at Bakersfield and the recent one at Pasadena City College. They're setting examples for our system for other philanthropic entities to follow and for certainly other colleges to pursue. And I think you'll see as you look at this result college by college that many of the colleges that have actually invested in advancement operations, built development operations, hired executive directors, and focused on staffing their foundations are the ones that were successful. And those that have looked at the foundation as a separate entity or something on an island or have defunded it completely are those that have not succeeded. And at the same time, obviously, this happened, if you think back to when we announced this gift in May of 2008, things were pretty rosy in May, and by the fall, they were not quite so rosy. So the economy certainly had an impact upon us. The governor's year of education that had been planned and was talked about as part of the announcement that May never came to be. And of course, his leadership at the statewide level for this campaign also did not happen. So this really was what I would call a grassroots effort on the part of our colleges, and the colleges that you see here that succeeded have done so through hard work, not through luck. And so with that, I also want to point out that Jill Schofield is in the room here somewhere. She's our Director of Public Relations, and she's been, and you've all met her previously, but she's been the key point person in working directly on a day-to-day basis with each of our college foundations, answering questions about scholarship disbursements and fundraising goals and the like. The other piece of this that I don't think has been talked about a whole lot is the entire apparatus of building a statewide scholarship disbursement program. And that's something that also didn't exist prior. And that initial $25 million gift 3 years ago set in motion a scholarship disbursement program that now has impacted nearly 5,000 students over the past 2 years. And obviously with this total now, we'll be reaching more than 3,300, 3,400 students per year, every year in perpetuity as a result of that apparatus being put in place, where students at all 112 colleges are now receiving scholarships through their local financial aid offices, working directly with the local colleges and their financial aid offices, as well as their foundations, to ensure that these funds reach the intended recipients directly. And it's a phenomenal opportunity for those colleges to recognize not only the student recipients, but also donors to those scholarship funds at the local level. So with that, we're very excited about where we are. Obviously, we would love to be at a $100 million level, but to be at a $68 million level in such a short, compact time frame, and with some pretty significant environmental challenges over the past 3 years, I think is something that those who have participated are very excited about. I know Bakersfield and Columbia both are. And we welcome any questions about this before I move on.
Yes, Paul, let me just say congratulations and thank you for the good work, no matter what. I think that I said this several meetings ago. It's the very worst thing that could happen is that we have a $68 million endowment. That's not too bad. I think that's something to be very proud of. Just a quick couple questions. What is the criteria to get a scholarship from the endowment? For a student?
A student that's completed 24 units,
Yeah.
has satisfactory academic standing, and is currently enrolled in 6 units, and is a BOG waiver recipient.
Okay, but do the locals in the end make the decision, right?
Yes,
So
and there are,
have more
with some of the donors and some of the scholarships that have been set up, there are additional criteria, for example,
see.
specific majors. The Edison gifts, for example, that went to the colleges in the
Right,
Los Angeles
right.
region are for
Okay.
green technology majors
Got
at 10 different schools in that region. So above and beyond those minimal qualifications, local colleges have had the ability, working with their donors, to set up specific interests of those donors.
Yeah. Board members? Member Azumi, then Member McDougall.
Well, I want to congratulate everybody concerned, both the foundation and the individual foundations as well. You know, the terrific success. And I want to ask both representatives of Bakersfield and Columbia about, you know, this was a great opportunity for you to leverage, you know, new donors, you know, to your districts and your colleges. And I wondered whether you saw going now into the future that, you know, you have a donor base that will continue to give, you know, beyond the OSHA, you know, grant process.
Yeah, I think absolutely, especially I can say for Columbia, that's definitely our goal. And I think one of the things that's really neat about the scholarship process is, as Paul said, some of the donors have put stipulations on their grants, additional criteria, and some of them want to be involved in selecting their recipients every year. So we have now a wonderful opportunity to invite them back to campus to read these stories, which are always amazing, and select their recipient. We have obviously a scholarship ceremony that they'll be invited to as well, but now we have a reason for them to be continually engaged with the college, and I think that that's the beginning of a long-term relationship. So absolutely, yes.
I agree. In Bakersfield, it's with the OSHA coupled with the, you know, the gift from Dr. Levin has created a huge awareness of the need for people to give to community colleges. This is stimulated. I'm in talks now with a major corporation in the area who's talking about the possibilities of a 7-figure gift. We have another, you know, farmer who's come up, a prominent farmer in the area who's come up and is talking to us about something that he'd like to do. So we can already see the benefits of it.
Thank you.
Let me, Member McDougall, if I could, Vice President Perez needs to leave, so if I could ask your indulgence for a minute.
I just want to commend, Paul, you and your staff for the job that you guys did. This has been a really difficult time for our economy, and I know you guys started with no foundation at all, no pun intended foundation. But
No, we didn't even have staff at the time either, so
But
that's
you
right.
guys, you know, there was no relationships established there, and you guys not only have been able to raise this money, but I know there's a lot of local colleges that didn't have foundations. They didn't have any idea how to raise money, and you guys have given them that foundation and helped them for the future to teach them how to raise money for their community and for their students. And so I like your analogy of looking at the glass half full instead of looking at it half empty, and I think this is something to celebrate for our students. So thank you and your staff for your effort.
Thank you. It's been an experience. And it's actually 2/3 full as we look at the numbers here.
Member McDougall.
Yes, I certainly want to add my thanks, Dr. Lanning, to those expressed by other board members for your work in making this opportunity available. More of a technical question. This morning, Dr. Levin was acknowledged for his marvelous gift to the community colleges. Certainly something I think everyone can be proud of, and it serves as a challenge to every college. My question is, if, for example, Bakersfield College decided to take 10 million of his gift and apply it to the OSHA scholarship, would that have been augmented by 5 million, or would that not have been possible?
It would have been, and the reason it did not happen is he had other criteria and goals for his gift in terms of, for example, as I understand, and Mike can certainly chime in on this, he was interested in reaching students that were entering the college as opposed to continuing students. And our stipulations were 24 units completed. So he also had, I believe, some more aggressive scholarship levels that he wanted to see reach the students' hands each year. So it was just a different structure. But yes, if indeed he had that intent, that would have been the case.
And we discussed that, and discussed it with Dr. Levin. His desire was that he wanted to see, his minimum scholarship is $2,000. He has a requirement for incoming high school students who have to have a certain GPA that's higher than continuing students. The continuing students is 3.0. Entering high school students or high school graduates is 3.2 for their cumulative. And he also has a requirement, this wouldn't have conflicted, but arts and sciences is his interest, as you discerned, and so that's what he wanted to go to.
And then, but to your point, just recently, the gift at Pasadena City College, a large piece of that gift was indeed used because the donor had interest in augmenting the endowment and was then matched. So when you look at the Pasadena City College total of about 183% of goal raised, it was because really of a single gift that I believe, if memory serves, something like 1.8 million of that, or maybe slightly less, was indeed transferred from that $4+ million they got into the endowment.
Member Ramos, then Member Baca.
Yeah, Mike, I want to elaborate a little bit on our breakfast conversation, and I don't want to be the skunk at the garden party because I do think that this is a tremendous accomplishment, and I think that Paul and the staff do deserve tremendous accolades for operating under tough constraints in a tough environment to achieve this level. But, you know, the bottom line is that notwithstanding all of those reasons, we left about, you know, $20-some million on the table. Okay. And, you know, I think that I would hope that although the OSHA match is no longer in play, that we would continue to work towards that $100 million goal as something that we actually continue to have a commitment to, so that even though it might not have happened in the time frame of the OSHA request, that we will have achieved something even more than this. Now, I'm not just talking about letting it grow in investment accounts and hoping that in 10 or 15 years we have that 100 million. I'm talking about actually working aggressively based on all the lessons that we've learned, and we've learned many about what's needed to succeed in this kind of campaign to actually achieve that $100 million benchmark. Again, it's not to be harsh, but you know, when I look at these numbers, I kind of feel like, well, you know, 7 out of 10 if I'm in college is about a C grade. It's a satisfactory but not sufficient amount of money given. And, you know, 3 years is not a long time, but it's not a short time either. Not a short time. So I just want to say again, not to be a detractor from the celebration. I think that's warranted. I think we need to keep it in that context and not be satisfied that this is the end point and mission accomplished and let's celebrate and move on, but rather let's build on the lessons, let's build on what was accomplished, which is not insignificant, but continue in this race and accelerate our rate of return so that even more campuses that were not engaged can be engaged and more students that could be benefited will be benefited. I hope that's an acceptable way to weigh in on the downsides of this campaign and not be overcritical.
Member Baca.
Well, you know, I just want to add something kind of goes hand in hand with what Member Ramos has just said, and that is that this is a tremendous accomplishment. I congratulate all three of you, in addition to all those other people who worked very hard on this. The endowment, that is the OSHA endowment, is a significant contribution to the system. And I think that because we are no longer going to be receiving the match there's no reason why we can't, in effect, memorialize or give tribute to this scholarship by ensuring that it reaches that goal.
And we have heard from some colleges, I will say, that do hope to continue adding to their bucket within the endowment because they do see the value of it and the excitement around it, but also they've built operations that they didn't have 3 or 4 years ago, and now they might actually have the ability to continue to raise funds. So that apart, there's also obviously relationships in place now that did not exist 3 and 4 years ago. So I think the potential is there certainly to continue this effort, and our goal is that we are not closed for business. We continue to accept gifts to the endowment, and we'll continue to do so anytime going forward. That said, in addition, I also want to point out as a part of the scholarship disbursement process, there is a guaranteed 5% payout on the fund each year that goes directly to the scholarships that are dispersed. Even with that, we are above water on the original $25 million gift, so it is being managed effectively by our partners at J.P. Morgan, and we're excited about where we're headed with that.
Member Reed, then Member Davis-Lyman.
Well, I just want to point out for my colleagues that Porterville College raised 200% of what they were asked for.
Where?
140 to 280. What's interesting in this, and I don't think Paul knows this was how we backed into it and how we did it. We determined, in order to perpetuate an Osher scholarship, that we need a donation of $3,133.33 from a donor. Then Porterville College agreed to match $10,000 to that scholarship. And we did that through our swap meet every Saturday. It's our largest retailer. Then, on top of that, we get the Osher match. And so when we went door to door to our business leaders and so forth in the community and asked for $3,133 from each of those donors. And that's how we did it. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I don't know that Paul.
No, I hadn't heard that.
So
That's great.
That's cool.
Member Davis-Lyman.
Well, I'm happy to be following Member Reed because I was going to say to Mike and to Becky that obviously there were some best practices here, and as an end result, we ought to be able to put something together talking about how you did it. I mean, each person did it in a very unique way. The Porterville, the Columbia, the BC, and it would be interesting because I also noticed that you're in Yosemite, right, district?
Just, yes.
That did not occur in Modesto, but it
Correct.
occurred in Columbia. And two very different stories. But I think the end result, Paul, that would be a marvelous thing for foundations, not only in our state, but nationally. How did you guys do it? There are best practices there.
Well, and to that point, and that's a great point, we have plans to create a case study around the entire experience of the campaign, from negotiating the Osher gift back in 2007 and 2008, all the way through the successes of some of our colleges and obviously the challenges at some of our other colleges. Our intent is to work with the Osher Foundation. They, too, would like to see such a report. This informs their philanthropy going forward as well. So our intent is over the summer and into the fall to be working toward that report being finalized. And obviously, that would come to this board, but also goes to the Osher Foundation Board and the Foundation Board.
Member Haley.
Dr. Lansing, Doug, again, you're hearing all these congratulatory statements, and I just want to add to that, you and your staff, but also to all of the districts and to the foundations of all of the districts that were represented here and contributed to this. And I don't want to put kind of a damper on this, but you said you're going to look at what some of the downside of this whole process has shown us. You know, why didn't we get the contributions or the interest or the development? We kind of went into this, we meaning all of us having talked about it in the beginning. There will probably be districts and colleges that are just not going to participate. And how can we take the best practices that Barbara was speaking of and maybe get to some of those districts? I think we all understand that there is a feeling of, well, this is our foundation and we'll build things in our place. And how well you did and how well we did getting to a broader base in many of the districts, but how we might get into some of those other districts in a way. So I hope that information will come out as you look at the results.
Absolutely.
May I speak?
Member McDougal.
I was going to ask the question, Dr. Lanning, about if money had been raised at the state level, let's say from a major company that gave to the foundation, could that have been used as a match, or did it have to be a local campus that raised the?
No, we actually raised, in fact, the Edison gift I referenced came through, there were 3 separate gifts that benefited multiple campuses, and they're reflected in the individual college totals here and were matched by the Osher funds. Other gifts that were unrestricted, meaning they weren't dedicated to any set of colleges, are reflected in the $768,000 that is on the final line before the totals on the sheet. But there were a number of gifts, Genentech is one, Sempra Energy is one, that come to mind right away. AT&T is another, where they made gifts through us to benefit colleges, specific colleges in the system, and they were then augmented by Osher dollars.
So what proportion of the total that was raised came through by that methodology?
Probably 20 to 25% of the total, of the 28 million that was raised,
25%.
somewhere in that ballpark.
I mean, I think all the colleges that did well need tremendous commendation, but frankly, I fail to understand how we had 54 of our colleges that hardly dented
Right.
a target when you had a matching opportunity such as reflected here. I find it tremendously disappointing, not obviously your work and the work of the foundation, but the inability of having that take place. It just defies me.
And that's one of the lessons learned that we plan to not so much investigate, because I think that investigation has been done. I think we need to publicize what the lessons learned were, and then talk amongst this group as well as amongst the state about why that lesson was what it was and how we might address that going forward. But I think the performance of the endowment the past 2 years, the fact that scholarships have been dispersed for the first time ever from a statewide entity the last 2 years, and the fact that we are earning money on the endowment and that colleges are seeing those checks arrive at the right time and so on, has built and engendered trust amongst the local colleges in what we can do as a system that didn't exist in '07. And we faced that hurdle the first year or two that we were in this campaign. So in that sense, it was a long road to hoe to get to a meeting point where we could even get to an MOU being signed with colleges.
Appreciate that.
Any other member, Mehmet?
Well, I thanked you this morning, and I do just see things a little bit different. I see we only left $11 million on the
11 or
table.
12 from Osher, correct.
So
33 overall.
that feels good. I think we've done very well, like you say, and I remember all the negotiations even to get this endowment. So it is a lot of hard work over many, many years, so I appreciate that. And I also am a little bit disappointed. My hometown college said they were going to be 100%, and they were not. And I know they had another campaign that they were doing that had started before that, but just like you say, there's still some work to do. And I wondered if you have offered this information to the press, you know, as a press release about what we've done and how it's finished. And I also wondered if you are going to offer these numbers to them.
Yes, and the final date for the transfer of funds was Friday.
Okay.
So this is hot off the presses this morning, and we indeed are preparing a press announcement and sharing it obviously with the field as well.
Right, so each community knows what their community gave. You know, when I saw $9.25, they might
Yes.
not be too happy.
Yes, but the folks at Columbia will be thrilled, and I think that's the point, is we can tout our successes.
Thank you.
And if there's no other points on this, just 2 other housekeeping items and one exciting outcome here. And I will mention, by the way, that one of the other outcomes of this campaign was the Kresge study that was completed. And going forward from this campaign will be our effort to build on the capacity building and revenue generation study that the Kresge Foundation funded last year that you all recall. And now that this campaign is done, we can look at what worked and what didn't work. We can put that as the bookend to the Kresge study and take those 2 together and start moving forward with how we can better impact the colleges at the local levels. That said, one of the meetings that Chancellor Scott mentioned this morning was a recent meeting that Henry Ramos facilitated at J.P. Morgan Chase's headquarters in Los Angeles. And we met with both the market president for California and the head of the foundation for the Western States, who is a longtime colleague of Member Ramos's in previous worlds. And subsequent to that conversation, which focused very much on workforce development and veterans, they have made a verbal commitment of $1 million to be invested into the system to benefit veterans support services in our system over the next 4 years, in addition to underwriting some of the costs of the planned Veterans Summit this fall. And we'll be focusing the veterans investment that they'll be making on workforce development initiatives. Of course, we've met with Jose Millán previously. We look forward to continuing the conversation internally. But J.P. Morgan Chase, which of course manages the statewide endowment, is now stepping up with an investment of its own, not to the endowment, but to program areas that benefit the populations they're looking to serve. So that's a very positive development that continues the momentum, I think, that we're starting to build. And toward that end, also, the end of the fiscal year just occurred, as you all know. Foundation finished the year with a net positive revenue for the year. And we look forward to doing the same in our projected budget for this coming year, despite the cut of the TANF contract of $4.5 million per year. As you know, we discussed at the last meeting, we project a net positive and growing positive revenue stream for this year. So all signs are looking good, and we'll have our audited financials for you in the fall, as we always do. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Any other board member questions or comments? With that, thank you very much. Paul, thank you to our guests for coming up.
Good job, Henry.
And let me also thank Member Ramos for his
My goodness, yes.
well-placed connections and for his work in securing this grant. That really is big.